Welcome back to another episode of Keystones Expedition. I am your host, Sam Chevalier, currently traveling through Africa, following stories and rewilding, conservation and just general solutions to ecological restoration. Currently at the back of Gaia'd, whilst my dad and Prince drive us through to Lusaka. Prince was our latest Keystone Individual that we filmed in South Luangwa, and so today I wanted to do a very special podcast. This is an introduction to Dr. Stephan Harding. Dr. Stephan Harding was my professor at Schumacher College, where I was in 2015, and he has been a Keystone individual in my life and has dramatically changed the way that I see the world. I went to Schumacher College when I was 25 years old to engage with sustainability at a deeper, more transformational level. And Stephan Harding quickly became my friend, as well as a mentor and professor in the space of ecology. You know, introducing me to Aldo Leopold and Arne Naess and deep ecology and Gaia'd theory and systems thinking. But beyond that, we just had such an amazing relationship and friendship where we'd go for long walks in the forest, the redwood forests, and discuss all sorts of topics, related to Jungian psychology, and swap stories about the African wilderness. And so today I wanted to make a special interview for Stephan. I've interviewed him a number of times over the years, of the last 3 to 4 years, when I travel back to the UK, and always sit down and have a chat with him. So please enjoy this conversation I have with Stephan around really important concepts about our connection with the natural world and learning to value the natural world outside of just being a commodity. How do we really understand the intrinsic value of the natural world? So I really hope that you enjoy this conversation with me and Stephan, this special episode of Keystones podcast. I'm looking to produce a short film on Stephan, which I will share in the notes, a link to a GoFundMe page that can help me with the production of all the content that I've filmed of Stephan over the years, just to really tribute Stephan's knowledge and the work that he's done for the world. So please do have a look at that if you are moved by this conversation with Dr. Stephan Harding. With that, I'll lead you into the conversation. Thanks so much, and enjoy. You're telling me a little bit about alchemy, and connecting to that. I'll never forget you when we were sitting and you asked us to go and spend time with a plant.
Oh yeah.
Mm. Have you spent time with any plants here?
Oh yeah, loads.
And what do you receive, and
well, it's hard to describe.
How do you open yourself to that receiving?
I'm trying to see if there's. Well, it's like listening to a poem or a piece of music.
What is? Sorry.
Being with the plant. When you're listening to some music that you love, or listening to a poem that you love, or being with a person that you love, you receive something, don't you? You receive the presence of the person, the presence of the music, the presence of the poem. It's the same with the plant. With all plants, they're all communicating with us. Everything's communicating. Everything speaks. And I suppose what alchemy does for some of us is it opens up those channels of communication, because it works with the imagination. It breaks down the rational mind, puts it in its place, because the rational mind doesn't believe, at least the Western rational mind doesn't believe that nature speaks. It just thinks of nature as dead. We all have that. It's just part of our culture. But alchemy is also part of our culture, but it's pre-scientific. And it was a way that the alchemists were developing ways of creating channels of communication between themselves and nature. But you don't have to have you don't have to use alchemy. Goethe's approach to nature also opens that up. So you communicate with the plant as if you're listening to a poem. I mean, the plant's a living being. It's created itself from out of itself. And if you're able to see it poetically, you can feel its living energy and how that energy has created its leaves, its stems, its flowers, and the whole developmental process. It's like an artist creating a beautiful work of art. That's what a plant is. Well, every organism is like that. The whole universe is like that. So, but it requires a poetic sensitivity. And you have to work with your imagination and put your rational mind very much in the back seat, but not get rid of it altogether, but in the back seat. So it's a practice, especially for us Westerners, because...
What do you do to practice it?
Well, if you work with Goethe's approach, you just look at the plant in a very systematic way. You sort of... Drawing is good. You start drawing the leaves near the ground and further up the stem, and then you close your eyes and you imagine the plant coming into being. That's Goethe's approach. With alchemy, you can meditate on certain alchemical images. For example, one I've been working on recently, which is a central one in alchemy, is the transformation of the four elements one into the other. You see them as a kind of mandala. Fire transforms into earth transforms into water transforms into air. And there's various things you can visualize and imagine as you close your eyes. And that cultivates these different qualities in yourself: the air quality, the earth quality, the water quality, the fire quality. And you meditate on those things. This is a wonderful place, you see. Oh, that's a robin, I think. I come here with my alchemical book, or an alchemical text, and I just go into a very deep meditative state, but with my eyes really open, looking. Look, beautiful, look at all this. It's all helping me to understand what alchemy is and experience it. And the alchemy helps me to connect much more deeply with this beautiful woodland.
It's really beautiful here.
Which is actually, I mean, I'm its human, you know. I'm the human of this woodland. I don't own it. I don't consider, I mean, legally in the Western world, Julia and I own it. I don't like that idea at all. It was waiting for us, and they needed us, because if it hadn't had us, it could have had some horrible housing developer, like there are so many around here now, cutting down these trees, you know, managing it. Getting these rather insensitive woodland managers, they would look at this and say, oh, it's an old coppice, it needs to be coppiced, and they'd sort of cut down this beautiful tree. I say to this woodland, don't you worry, no one is going to touch you. No one can touch you. No one can touch you. I wouldn't even say I'm your guardian, I'm your human. I understand you. I know who you are. I know you want to be wild. And so just relax, you're okay. And the woodland relaxes. And then as the woodland relaxes, I relax into the woodland. And then I can read my alchemical text and I really get a very deep intuitive understanding of it. Because the woodland is helping me understand it, and the woodland wants me to understand it, so that the woodland and me can become married. It can be a sort of conjunction, a conjunctio mysteriosum between the two of us. You know, a real. It's like the Aboriginal people in Australia, and the Bushmen in Africa, and the indigenous people in the Amazon. They all know it's a natural human thing to speak to nature and to know that trees speak and birds speak and plants speak. It's only us Westerners who've forgotten that, and that's why we wreck the planet. But here, what I'm doing, I'm cultivating that ability to converse with nature through alchemy, through Goethe, through holistic science. Then I invite small groups of students and people from Schumacher College to come. And for example, I just put a chair here, like you've got there, and I say, just sit here for half an hour. And I have 5 places where people sit for half an hour. And I just say to them, what does the woodland say to you? What are you learning? What are you learning? Open yourself to learning. This is your teacher. And then we meet up at the house afterwards and we have some of Julia's cake. And then hear what people have to say. So the woodland is speaking through every person. And it's very amazing. People really get a lot of healing from doing that. Every human being has the how shall I put it? Has the ability to understand who nature is and to speak with nature, to realize that nature's a living soul. Every human being has that deep within them. Every single one, without exception. Even the most horrible human beings. Everyone has that. In Buddhism they call it the Buddha nature. Paracelsus called it the star of man, star in man, or a man and woman. And Jung called it the self with a capital S. Arne Naess calls it the ecological self. So everyone has that. It's our birthright. Little children have it, they love nature, they love running around in nature. So that gives me hope. It's just a question of bringing that out in people. Of course, by the time you become an adult in the West, it gets buried under so much stuff, so ego buries it. I want to be prime minister, or I want to be rich, or I want this car, or I want this house. It buries that star of nature, the philosopher's stone, the self, the ecological self. But it's there, and it's not difficult to get it out. People just need to spend time in places like this, preferably sleeping overnight under the stars in a wild place. Even in England we still have a few places like this left. So these sorts of places are the repository of wisdom. Even in England they're very important for the future of mankind, because this is where we can learn, this is where our teaching can happen, this is where we can receive the wisdom that we need to survive the ecological crisis. And we know it's very well documented that people who are disturbed, the young people who are disturbed, old people who are disturbed or lost or depressed, they start to feel better in places like this if they spend time in them. Nature's amazingly healing. I mean, Buddha himself was enlightened under a Bodhi tree, and when he was enlightened, he touched the earth to be the witness of his enlightenment. So these sorts of places are the repository of wisdom. They're great repositories of wisdom and healing and understanding.
He touched the earth.
He touched the earth, yeah.
He touched the earth, yeah. It brings me... If we can meditate for a second on George Monbiot said the other day that we need to start talking to the same choir.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And bringing ourselves together and building the community of people that care and impact. And I think, just meditating on the years of Schumacher College and the community that you've built with various lecturers and teachers and professors and CEOs and managers. Reflecting on that, is there anything that comes up, just reflecting on that community that's been built?
Well, I mean, it's just wonderful how, as I was saying, how for at least for people like that, how that ecological self is just so close to the surface, just needs a little scratch. There it is, and everyone feels it. And that's why the community at Schumacher is so beautiful, because everyone's had that experience. And you can also have the experience of growing food, like in the way we do at the college, in a very beautiful, complex garden situation, not in a monoculture situation. So interacting with nature, but there must always be wild places in any garden. So it's just under the surface. And at Schumacher, thousands of people have come from all over the world and felt that. And it's also very powerful to be in a community of humans who feel that together, who have that in common, who have all experienced their ecological self. Very powerful, because it's very hard to do it on your own. Some people can, some solitaries can do that, but most of us, including me, we need community. We need other like-minded people, or people with who've discovered the soul of nature, or who are on the path of uncovering it for themselves. We all need to be together, helping each other, and everyone doing it in their own individual way. So that's what Schumacher College has done over 30 years. I mean, there's at least 15,000 people who've been to the college from all over the world. over the last 30 years. It's amazing.
It really is amazing.
Yeah, so Schumacher College is a jewel. It's very important. You know, I feel really honoured, if that's the right word, to have been one of the founders of it, with Satish and various other people.
Can you speak to the founding of Schumacher College? To just speak to the days of it, like, how did it start?
Oh, well, I don't know.
I don't know, just like the you know, the enjoyment of it, like the novelty of it. So.
Well, I mean, it was, we were working in the dark. We didn't know what was going to happen, whether it was going to work or not. But the first course with James Lovelock was tremendous. I'll never forget that. Tremendous feeling of excitement and exploration and possibilities. And it wasn't just, we did science, but I don't think anyone else there was a scientist, as far as I remember. I mean, the participants. But we did art, we did walks, we did cooking, and we created a sort of Gaian community. We felt there was a tremendous excitement about it all. And we knew that we were doing something totally original, hadn't been done before. Something very pro-Gaian. And then it just built from there, so it was very, very exciting. So I think we've got about 20,000 alumni from Schumacher College now. And they're all over the world doing great things. I mean, that's an amazing achievement. And they all have this view, this deep ecology view. Every single one of them has that seed growing inside them, which we all have, but they were able to nurture it and grow it and see it flourish in community with others and with nature at Schumacher College. And that's the importance of places like Schumacher College. Unfortunately, they're getting snuffed out more and more and more by the rapacious economic system that we live in. You know, these places have to make money to survive, and it's very difficult to make money like that. Schumacher's not about making money. What places like Schumacher need are philanthropy. They need help. They need to be nourished by very wealthy people who see the value of what we're doing. And what other places like Schumacher are doing is philanthropy. And the big mistake that's been made, certainly here at Schumacher College, was to try and make Schumacher College into a business. That's a big mistake. It's not a business. It's what is it if it's not a business? I'm not sure what the opposite of business is. It's a learning community that needs to be supported. Like in the old days, the monasteries, you know, they were learning communities, and they were supported by benefactors like kings and queens and princes. And in fact, you could say Schumacher College is an ecostery. I can't remember who coined that term. Not a monastery, but an ecostery. It's that sort of place where people come for deep reflection, deep connection, together with each other, service to each other, service to nature, restoring ourselves. That's an ecostery. Who was it who coined that term? I can't remember. I should know, shouldn't I? Anyway, one of the teachers who came to Schumacher who coined that term. And that needs to be supported by people from the outside. It doesn't make money. It makes some money, but it doesn't pay for itself. And that's the problem. That's why it's so hard to keep ecosteries like Schumacher going.
Is there anything that people can do, I guess, to reconnect themselves, other than your classic going outside? Like, is there any conscious?
I think we need help to do that. I mean, Jung pointed out that the psyche is as real as the outer world and as objective as the outer world. So the psyche is vast. In fact, there's no separation between the so-called inner world of psyche and the outer world of matter. They're the same thing. And we've got this, he pointed out, we have this little bubble which we call our ego, and we think that's all we are. And that's an illusion. And it wasn't just Jung who pointed it out, all the great religions point that out. And so what we need to do is connect. I mean, we need an ego in order to live in the world. Of course we do. We shouldn't get rid of our ego. But we should help the ego to connect with something far vaster than itself, which is in the psyche, which, as I said, is both the world outside and the world within. And he said that we all have, this is his language, we all have a God image within us, So there is a God, there is something divine in nature, and it's left this little connection with that divinity. Everyone has that connection of the divine intelligence that created the whole universe. I don't mean created in the creationist sense. You know, we know how it happened through natural selection, etc., etc. You know, so there's no reason for ditching science at all. I have to make that clear, because creationism is wrong, basically. I think it doesn't stand up to the evidence. But anyway, so back to Jung. So everyone has this, and this is ancient wisdom. You know, we've had this wisdom in humanity for millennia. It's only Western culture that's ditched all this and become utterly materialistic. So the insight is, the knowledge is that everyone has, let me use Jung's language, a God image within. The God image is part of us, you know. We have our masculine side, our feminine side, we have our negative side, but everybody has that little spark of the cosmic intelligence. Because after all, we were made by it. We've come out of it. So in order to be really happy and content, and in order to solve the problem, everyone needs to work primarily to connect with the divinity within, the God within, and use Jung's language. I don't like to use the word God, but I'm just using Jung's language. He called it the self with a capital S. And there are things you can do to experience the self, or to make a connection with the self. There's meditation, there's Jungian psychoanalysis, there's ritual, there's fasting in nature. There's all sorts of things that people have been doing for thousands and thousands of years like that. And in the West we have alchemy that was very concerned with that. But modernity doesn't recognize any of this. That's the problem. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
No, you are.
So
totally.
That's what we need to do. It's quite simple. Everyone needs to find out who they really are, which is who we really are is the cosmos, nature, the divine intelligence. That's who we are. We're little aspects of the divine intelligence in a human form. And if we could all feel that and experience that directly, not as a belief, but as real, genuine knowledge, then of course you're going to be kind to other people and you're going to be kind to nature, because it's all part of the same divine energy that created you. It's all part of you. I mean, these are old teachings from all the great religions. They say exactly the same thing in different ways. So like Jung said, our problem is a religious problem. We've lost our knowledge of how to connect with something wider than ourselves, something greater than ourselves. We've lost our myth. But you have to be careful with Jung, because he can become yet another cult, you know, like Steiner and all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to be careful. Jung wouldn't like that. Jung would want you to be really yourself.
Yeah.
But I think it's his psychology that's basically established on fruitful grounds. And then there's other people who worked after him, like Thomas More and James Hillman and many others, who've recognized the reality of the psyche and the fact that all of us have this divinity within.
If you could communicate something to everyone in the world right now, what would you want to communicate?
Well, I mean, does communicate in what sense? I mean, just use a few words, that's not going to do very much. If I could snap my fingers, I'd want everyone to be Gaia'd. That's to say, to have the realization, not an intellectual idea at all, not academic, nothing to do with writing or reading. You can be totally illiterate. Just to have the realization that we're living inside a living planet, a gigantic planetary organism, that the cosmos is alive, that everything's alive, that everything's sentient, and that the whole purpose of this existence is the cultivation and development of consciousness. But I want people to snap my fingers and they just have the experience without needing any words. We just have hey, we'll wake up in the morning, open the curtains. Imagine Trump, you know, and Putin and all these very nasty people. They open the curtains and, wow, God, I didn't realize how beautiful and how alive everything is. I wish everyone could have that feeling. And if everyone did, we'd be able to solve our problems pretty quickly. Although it's getting rather late with climate change now, even if everyone had that experience and we really moved on protecting the climate or the Earth from climate change, we'd still, unfortunately, suffer some serious consequences. It's now so late, but still. Yeah, I mean, there's a famous passage by Aldo Leopold, Thinking Like a Mountain, where he felt the mountain as a sentient being. Yeah, of course, the trees are sentient, and they feel and they think in their own way, and they intuit, and they have the same functions as we do. A tree's got to find its way, its roots have got to find its way in the soil to nutrients. It's got to partner with mycorrhizal fungi. Think of the communication that goes on in the roots between mycorrhizal fungi and the tree. That's a kind of thinking. It's a kind of communication which involves a kind of thinking. It's not human thinking, but it's nevertheless a communication. And there's quantitative exchanges of water and nutrients between the two partners. That's a kind of thinking. And then a tree, it must feel really good when the sunlight of the right amount is raining down on its leaves. It must feel, oh, this is good for me, this sunlight. I can photosynthesize. An intuition, maybe a tree can intuit itself as part of Gaia, of the whole planet. I think the pheasant agrees. And then, sensing, well, a tree obviously senses temperature and humidity and moisture in the soil. So of course a tree, every being has those 4 functions. You could even say every atom, maybe every subatomic particle has those 4 functions of consciousness inherent in them in some way. Otherwise, where do we get them from if they don't come from the physical basis of nature, from the atomic, subatomic structure or substratum of nature? So they must be there right at the very core of nature, those 4 functions.
Wow. Is there anything, it's very exciting and it's quite awesome for me to understand that. I don't think I've understood that fully before, so thank you. What makes you most excited about this work?
What makes me most excited?
Yeah.
About what, the holistic science?
Yeah,
or just what?
Science and digging deep, when you have moments
Well, I mean, I suppose I have moments, and our students have moments of wholeness, where you just feel the earth is alive, you're alive inside the living earth, that the earth is much more sentient than you imagined, that organisms are sentient, that there's consciousness in everything. Everything's conscious, one way or another. Everything is consciousness. It's all about consciousness. Those are the wonderful moments when you really know that, It's no longer just an intellectual idea, but there's a sort of kind of knowing descends on you like a healing rain. It's like the healing rain falls on you, and you just know, without any doubt. But of course you can't prove it. It's not provable in a scientific sense at all, but you just know. It's a knowing that the universe is consciousness, and that the whole thing is about consciousness, and that you're involved in developing the consciousness of the universe in some way. And that's the role of humanity, to do that. It's a kind of knowing, but you can't measure it, you can't describe it. Although I bet if you did brain scans of people in those sorts of states, you'd find a different brain state of someone who's in that kind of state as opposed to someone who isn't. I'm sure that'll be demonstrable in the future, or maybe already has been, by neuroscientists. I mean, we already know that with psilocybin, for example, the connections in the brain become much more intimately. The different parts of the brain become much more intimately connected, and that's probably why you get this holistic feeling of the integrated nature of the universe. So that feeling, that knowing, that state, I think must have a physical correlate in our bodies. And I'm sure it's not just the brain, it's the gut, it's everything in your body. Feels so much better when you enter those sorts of states. And I think that's what we're trying to do in holistic science. It's that kind of discipline that brings you into a state of complete harmony with the whole of nature and with the purpose of your own life. So that's holistic science, ultimately. It's much more than conventional science. Conventional science isn't interested in that at all. It just wants to get more information, more fact, but no value. The universe is a learning organization. It's not a dead machine, it's a vast intelligence, and it's a creative agency. And it's created this beautiful planet with all this biodiversity, and it's produced human beings with our amazing intelligence and our capacity to alter the environment to a huge extent. But, you know, it's an experiment, giving us all this power, making us so clever, making us so conscious, and also unconscious. And it really looks like it's been a failure. So, if you're the universe and you're a great experimenter, great creative agency, and you've got all this space, you know, the vastness of the universe with many, probably there'll be several other planets like this, if not in this galaxy, in other galaxies. This one fails. That's a useful learning experience for the universe. You know, she might think to herself, maybe I made those humans a bit too focused on their rationality and not enough focused on their intuition, their feeling. When I say, I'm speaking as if the universe, you know, is like a human being, just metaphorically. Of course, we don't know what the universe is. It's a mystery. But I'm pretty convinced that the universe is a great soul, a great intelligence. It knows what's going on, has a purpose. That's how I reconcile myself to the situation. I have a more sort of cosmic perspective on it, you see.